On this episode of the Part-Timer Podcast, I sit down and talk to Dave Paulina, a White Sox fan, and a realistic one. So I hope you enjoy that conversation. A little bit more talk about the live stream, live at lunch on YouTube. And this is strictly for White Sox fans. So here we go. Episode 16 of the Part-Timer Podcast. Sweet 16, right? So do I get a car? When do I get a car? Remember that show? Sweet 16 on MTV, where these spoiled brats, boys and girls, got like wild parties and Range Rovers and just stupid stuff. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for listening. If you're on Apple Podcasts, if you'd be so kind to leave a review, good or bad, I like feedback, 5 stars would be nice. Wherever you're listening, hit that follow or subscribe button. So if you tuned in to the stream today, Tuesday afternoon, live at lunch is I think what I'm going to stick to. It was all right. But the number, so save this number, 815-714-9044. It's in the description. In the show notes, that's the number you can call live and be on the stream. Ask me questions, whatever the topic is, chime in. I'll tell you right now, you have a much better shot of getting on my stream than you do a sports talk station. Why? Because you're probably the only one calling. Follow the Part-Timer Podcast on Twitter at PartTimerPod. Shout out to the Unwrapped Sports Network. Follow them at Unwrapped Sports, and follow me at Shy Sports Josh. I would appreciate that. Plenty of content always going out on Twitter and the Unwrapped Sports Network. A lot of XFL stuff. So follow them. They're really good guys. But without further ado, I had a really good conversation with Dave Paulina. I wouldn't consider him like a pipeline expert or anything like that. He's just a diehard White Sox fan who is, and this comes up a lot, cautiously optimistic. So here he is, Dave Paulina. All right, joining me on the podcast now, Dave Paulina. Am I saying that right?
Oh, it's Paulina.
Paulina. You know what's funny? You know what's funny is I was like, like I said before we were recording, and the people who have been on this podcast know, I use a voice assistant to call whoever I'm interviewing, and she said it right. So maybe I need to start listening to her. I thought she was a lot dumber than she is, but hey, man, if she can get the pronunciation right, maybe I need to start following suit. So Dave, I wanted to have you on because not only did I've been talking a lot of Cubs because of the Chris Bryant situation and because they have so many kind of question marks with the new manager and stuff like that. So I have to do my due diligence and have you on and talk White Sox. We're in a pretty good spot, are we not?
It definitely feels better than it has in many years. I can't remember a time where I quite felt like I am now, except maybe, was it 2014, was it, when we got like Melky Cabrera, LaRoche, and everything like that. But obviously we know how that ended up. But I feel like we're in a good spot right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm so glad you brought that up. The Melky Cabrera, Adam LaRoche acquisitions were supposed to be the thing that got us to that next level. And to be honest with you, I gotta credit. I really have to credit like the Cubs, because they were, I feel like, the first team in this current era to be like, listen, we're not going after these big names anymore. We're just gonna build, and it worked. I mean, there's teams that build to an extent, but the Cubs went the route of like, okay, look, instead of going and getting players now, we're going to build, see what we have, and then add to whatever we need. I mean, everybody's doing it now. The Sox, they're in the middle of doing it. The Nationals did a pretty good job of doing it. I mean, Trey Turner was I don't remember his ceiling, but Trey Turner has turned into an extremely good baseball player, and that showed last season with the championship. But now it's weird to say that the White Sox are in a position to. I'm not even going to say meet expectations because I think different people have that. Like, there's different expectations floating around, but
Yeah.
just to compete, just straight up compete. And I don't mean like last season White Sox where it's like 5-1 in the sixth and they come back and they lose 5-4, but hey, they tried. I mean, like, look, we're gonna go beat really good teams and hopefully play meaningful baseball in late August, early September. So that's something that I'm just really excited for. But I think the first question that I would like to kind of like really dive into is spring training this season is gonna be. I just feel like this is gonna happen. If Yohan Moncada or let's say Dylan Cease or just any Eloy Jimenez, any of these players have bad spring trainings, I feel like some Sox fans, are gonna jump ship. They're gonna be like, "Well,
Oh,
he
absolutely.
didn't have a good spring, so here we go. I'm nervous now." But we've seen that spring training has no direct correlation with how the season's actually gonna go. So what do you have any expectations going into spring training, or you just kind of check the stat sheet, watch games if they're on, and go from there?
Um, well, I have some pretty high expectations for the season. Mainly looking at what we've added this year, or this off season, with Keuchel, with Encarnacion, just with the additions that we made, even Mazzara. Like I'm looking forward to these additions. They filled the holes that we needed, even though they aren't. With Mazzara's case, yeah, he's not the best right field option maybe that we could have gotten, but he's a lot better than what we were trotting out there last year. It's absolutely crazy. So my expectations are high, but I mentioned earlier the with Melky Cabrera and Adam LaRoche, that season. My expectations are high then too. So obviously there's a different feel than what it was then. But
Yeah, 100%.
I'm optimistic. I'm optimistic, but I'm cautiously optimistic because, it's the White Sox. I have a feeling that they could still end up messing this up somehow. Injuries are always a big thing with us. And we're also relying heavily on a lot of our young guys. We're relying heavily on Eloy to build onto a season he had last year. We're trying to rely on Giolito to be our ace after having one great season, which was a great season. But will he be able to repeat that? Then you have Mancada. Let's see if he could repeat what he did last year. And Anderson. I know there's a lot of talk with him, and if he will be able to keep his offensive numbers up, and as well as getting his defense up there as well. So there are a lot of factors that are going to be going into play. But the long answer to your question here, yeah, I'm pretty optimistic about what's going to be coming this year, and I have some pretty high expectations for what we're going to be seeing on the South Side.
Well, I like the phrase that you kind of coined your feelings with is cautiously optimistic, because that's exactly how I feel. Um, I I haven't quite decided who had, and I know for some people this is going to be a no brainer, but I'm still trying to figure out who had a better offseason between the White Sox and the Reds, because the Reds have, I mean, getting Castellanos is like that put them in a different tier in itself. Um, but when I look at the White Sox, I think that, like you said, they filled exactly what they needed to fill. And right field, again, with Mazzara, I feel like that was a good gamble to take. Sometimes you make moves that don't necessarily put you over the edge, but it could. I mean, Mazzara's got
Yeah.
disgusting power. Um, I remember calculating the stats because I was so disappointed in our fan base when the Mazzara deal went through, and I know a lot of
Hmm.
people liked Steele Walker, um, But Mazzara, in a down year last season, had a better year than the platoon of 3 or 4 players that the White Sox put in right field combined. Not on average,
Oh,
combined. So, look, like, take a gamble on the kid. He's what, 24?
yeah, 24. It's nuts.
So, I mean, why not? And look, if he's bad, then you get rid of him. Then you got to figure something else out. But I think that was a great gamble. My specific expectations this season. Look, I have some side bets that the Sox are going to win the division, but that's just because the payout's nice with the people that I made the bet with. Do I think they're
Yeah.
really going to win the division? I don't know. I mean, they could. Minnesota could fall off, but what I don't like is the Twins fans just all of it. Just they're like assuming that they have the division locked down, which doesn't make too much sense to me. Okay, you got Kenta Maeda and Josh Donaldson, which sure fills two decent sized voids on your team, but like who's saying? And it's the same situation with us. Who's saying that they're going to have good years? Um,
hmm
Go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say. Well, the same way that we're looking at the Sox and being cautiously optimistic about them. I mean, we don't have much on the south side that to prove, or we have to prove a lot essentially. We were coming from another losing season, and there's nothing that we've proved to show that we can win the division. I think that we can based off of who we've gotten and the way the players are trending, but we haven't proved anything yet. So I understand that. But also with the Twins, they just had this last season. Yeah, it was 100+ wins, but the season before that, they were not spectacular. So their track record also wasn't real. They don't have that proven record of okay, they are a for sure team that's going to win this division. I mean, to be honest with you, I think that the Indians are a little bit more sure than the Twins, mainly just because of their track record getting to this point. Granted, they don't have Kluber now, and Clevenger's injured, and he was also talks with the trading block. It's this division. I'm really looking forward to this year with the AL Central.
I don't think Minnesota wins 100 games this year. I I think they had and no, like I'm not taking any credit away from Minnesota because they really, I mean, I hated playing them last season, but I don't think they win
Mm-hmm.
100 games this year simply for the fact that it's so hard to win 100 games in multiple years, let alone back-to-back years. But we're not sitting here talking about a lot of things went right for them, which is
Yeah.
just how baseball goes. Things have to go right for you. You got to stay healthy. Now they dealt with their injuries and stuff like that, but I'm going to be really interested to see how they repeat their performance from last year. Do I think they're the front runners to win the division? You think Cleveland is? I do think Minnesota is the front runner to win the division, but it's not by a long shot at all. Just like the NL Central, I think that this is one of the more up for grabs divisions in baseball. Because in the NL West, I mean, Dodgers are going to win the division for the next 4 years, 5 years probably. The AL West is kind of interesting. The AL East, the Yankees are going to run away with it because Boston's out of it. Toronto might make it close in Tampa Bay. The NL East, Phillies and Braves. I mean, it's pretty much them two. But yeah, I mean, like you said, the AL Central, I'm gonna be excited to see. But tell me if this is wrong because I think I've seen. I think you may have seen me say this before. My expectation as a team is to win 85 games. Whether that makes the
Yeah.
playoffs or not, 85 games.
That's a great place to start at. I mean, when was the last time we've had 85 win season? I mean, I think it was 2012 was the last time we had a season over 500. So shooting for 85 wins, that will be spectacular, and they're only going to get better. I'm always looking for the future. I guess Rick Hahn and Kenny Williams and all of them have really instilled that in my brain to not look for the
Yeah.
short picture, to look at the long picture ahead. So I might be preaching that a lot, but I'm always looking ahead to the future. I mean, we have a strong young core, and like what you're talking about earlier with the Cubs. They built upon Rizzo, Bryant, and then you got Baez in there, Contreras. You build around that core, and things will happen. We have to let these young guys play out, and I firmly believe that Robert's going to come up this year and he's going to absolutely smash the ball. He's gonna. I hope that he will break the White Sox tradition of having the rookie have a little bit of a falter in the beginning of the season, the beginning of his career, and I think he's just going to jump right into it.
Well, Eloy Jimenez wants to hit 50 home runs. Did you see that?
I did, and you know what? Go for it, go for it.
Yeah,
I
I'm at the point where, like, as fans, and I understand the fan standpoint of like, hey, like we want to go win a World Series. And, like I understand have high expectations, but I kind of just feel like if anybody's gonna have high expectations, it needs to be the players. Like Eloy Jimenez, sure,
yeah,
go hit 50 home runs. Tim Anderson, sure, why not try and win the MVP? Try not, go out and try and win a Gold Glove. Somebody go win a Cy Young. Like go do something crazy. They're the ones that are supposed to have the ridiculous expectations because their
yeah,
expectations can directly affect their play. When fans have those high expectations, people end up arguing in the middle of June because somebody went 0 for 4 and they don't deserve to be hitting second. Like, I just think that White Sox fans and specifically White Sox Twitter, maybe just, I understand the passion. We're an extremely passionate fan base, extremely passionate city. I just think sometimes maybe we need to pump the brakes a little bit and really take a step back and look at the big picture, which is what I've been trying to preach. And I've been getting a lot of shit for it. I got to be honest with you. I've been getting a lot of backlash because I'm not sitting here saying that we're going to win a World Series this year. I just think time is going to be the best thing to the Sox advantage. Let these players figure it out, and then we can build on that. But I'm glad you say that 85 wins is pretty reasonable because I do think that adding Gio Gonzalez, adding Dallas Keuchel to the rotation, which was arguably the biggest crutch the biggest thing that the Sox had to fill, and you got two really experienced guys that round out that rotation. Then you have Kopech coming back, but I'll tell you what a concern of mine is. I don't know what it is. We have the Tommy John curse.
oh, yep.
Do you see he was having Tommy John surgery on Thursday?
No.
I'm gonna butcher his name, and future Sox is gonna be so pissed at me. Hunter Shriver.
Okay, no, I think I did see that actually.
Yeah,
It's it's the season, I guess. I mean, the more I'm hearing about like Tommy John surgery and it really coming up last year the most with Kopech, it it's not one of those things it sucks. You lose a year of productivity, you lose a year of gaining the experience in the minors and just getting those innings under your belts. But how far they've come with that surgery, I have no doubt with these players coming back from it. I mean, there are a handful of players on the Sox roster last year that had. I'm trying to think of something like didn't. Oh, I can't even. Like
Zach
Burr or
Birdie
something.
had it. Obviously, Carlos Rodon should be coming back in midsummer. Maybe, I mean, who knows?
Yeah,
I'm trying to. There's another player in the minors that had it too. And it's skipping my mind.
Dunning had it.
Dunning had it. Yes. Yeah, I'm not.
But
I'm
these
not
guys are
necessarily.
coming back though.
Yeah, exactly, and that's.
They're
I'm not
coming back.
necessarily. I'm not necessarily like bummed out about the fact that these guys have to have surgery because yeah, you're right. I mean, Tommy John surgery it's like people can do it in their sleep now. It's just the
Yeah.
fact that you're losing productivity. You're losing these years on these players, and it's like,
Yep.
look, man, I don't know what's going on. I don't know. I don't know if it's our developmental team. I don't know if it's Don Cooper. I don't know if it's just a straight up mechanics issue from these players that needs to be fixed. But this can't keep happening. Like, if you want to go out and compete and try and win a World Series, you cannot keep dealing with injuries.
Yeah, the biggest blow I think was Kopech. We were relying well, at least we were relying heavily on him coming into this season. We're thinking, okay, we're gonna have a rotation of Giolito, Kopech, Cease. This is gonna be amazing. We're gonna add on a few guys. Now there's a little bit more of a question mark. And there's gonna be the whole inning limit on Kopech
Yeah.
going forward, and um, there's a lot in question. There's a lot in question going on right now. Um, but I'm looking forward to Kopech's return. I'm looking. I know a lot of players have, or a lot of fans have given up on Rodon, but I'm looking forward to Rodon's return, whether it's in June, July, sooner or later. I was a really big fan of him when he was on the team. Even with him and Sale on the team, I was really leaning heavily towards Rodon at times as one of my favorite pitchers on the staff. Maybe not the best, but still one of my favorites. That slider of his always got me.
Yeah, I think Carlos Rodon is somebody, and I hear you, man. I mean, when people go back and look at his NC State highlights, I mean, it's gross. Like he was pretty dominant there, and then drafting him was like, okay, like we got a hell of a left-hander, and then yeah, you said combine him with Chris Sale. There's something to be really excited about. But he has these lulls, and they're not short. They're extremely long lulls of bad starts. He gets himself in trouble. Um, but I gotta say, I think his attitude that he brings to the mound. I mean, the dude is a bulldog. Like he'll load the
Yeah,
bases with nobody out, get out of it, and he's fired up. Like I think you need somebody like that on your staff. I'm just hoping that when he does come back, that his future's brighter than his past is, because there were times. Now, don't get me wrong, he's been extremely dominant at points, but then again, when he's bad, I mean it's tough. Like I mean, it's not Carson
yeah,
Fulmer tough, but it's like, hey man, like we know you're better than this. Like let's pick it up here. So
yeah.
the rotation's going to be good. It's just a matter of staying healthy and getting everybody there is the problem.
Exactly. And you know what? We're not trotting out Covey. We're not trotting out Benuelos. Those are the two. Detweiler. I I'm speechless right now. Just when I saw Gio's name come up that we got him. When I saw Keuchel, I'm like, okay, great. We got these two guys. We got Rodon. We got Kopech coming back from injury. Like we will have a better starting rotation than we had last year or the year before, and that will heavily contribute to our wins. We have the bats. We have the bats. We have the some speed out there. We couldn't hold games though. We couldn't get through
Right.
games. We couldn't hold games, and now we have some more bullpen help with Shishik. We got we got another season of Colome. Maybe Herrera comes around this year. Who knows? Um, this season is going to be heavily reliant on our pitching staff, both bullpen and rotation, which is kind of frightening. But also looking at what we've gotten, it's again my phrase of the night is I'm feeling cautiously optimistic about them.
So I know the last thing I want to cover on pitching, and then we'll move to kind of position players, is it's so tough to predict what your bullpen is going to do, because I mean, you could have the same guys for 4 years. They'll have 2 good years and 2 extremely bad years, and nothing's changed. It's just sometimes the way it goes. Um, who is the one guy? My answer is extremely quick. Who is a guy in the bullpen that you really want to see? You really want to see a lot out of this year. Not only stay healthy, but you want to see some effectiveness and be a possible crutch in, let's say, like the seventh or eighth inning, because we know what Colome is going to give you in the ninth. But who's that guy in the middle who you would like to really see a lot more out of this year?
Aaron Bummer. I want to see him. I want to see him repeat what he did last year. I want him to have a solid season. I think that he really will hold down the bullpen. Um, great guy out there.
That's not what I expected. Um, I agree though. I want to see Aaron Bummer continue to get it done because he was like if somebody comes in and like okay, Carson Fulmer comes in and we're like, "Oh fuck, here we go." If he loads the bases, Aaron Bummer's coming in, he might give up a run, but he's getting you out of the inning. Um yes, that needs to continue. For me, it is without question Kelvin Herrera. And
Okay,
it
yeah,
has to do with the fact that when he came over, I was really excited about that signing because he's got nasty stuff if he can control it. He had obviously the back issue probably played a part in last season's issues, but I really feel like he can be like the shutdown guy for inning 8 and for you to get to column A. And last season, early on he was. Early on you were like, "Oh, Herrera and column A
yeah,
at the end of the bullpen, like this game's over. I might as well just turn it off." But then the back stuff started to hurt, and he started losing his control. And then Calvin Herrera started to be the guy that you didn't want to see come into the game. So I'm just
yep,
hoping that he can one stay healthy because that's the number one obstacle, and I just hope that he can come back and be a productive piece of that pen because what I don't want to happen is it's July 3rd and we're sitting here talking like I don't know, like the Sox might trade Calvin Herrera for like two single A prospects because we don't have any use for him anymore. So I'm he's the guy that I'm looking forward to. Um,
yeah.
but go ahead.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh no, yeah. He's a guy that I guess my expectations for him this year are just pretty low based off of last season. I'm hoping he has a bounce back year, and if he does, that's gonna, like you said, that eighth inning guy to come in to hold that lead and then bring in Column A. I mean, it's the making of a nice little back end of a bullpen right there.
Well, the good
Um,
news is you're going to have Bummer too, and we've seen it. I
yeah,
mean, Bummer can pitch anywhere. You could put him in the fifth if you needed to. I mean, he'll get it done. But I think that's a really good problem to have. Is look, it's the eighth inning. Who's coming up for them? Like if we got three lefties, we're putting in Aaron Bummer. But it's a good issue to look at whether you put in Aaron Bummer or whether you put in Kelvin Herrera, and that's the problem I want to have. I want to have problems on this team, and I want them to be good problems. Like, okay, who are we starting at first base? Are we going to start Zach Collins because he's on an absolute tear when he gets into the game, or are we just going to stick with Abreu and not give him a day off? Like, I want to have those issues, which
yeah,
leads me to the segue of position players are like you said earlier, we're relying on a lot of things like all teams are, but we're relying on a lot of players to repeat and or improve on last year. Um, I'll say from a defensive standpoint, the three question marks I have. I love Tim Anderson, but his glove needs to improve drastically this year. Like we need to catch
yeah,
the ball, and he's going to be a giant part of that because last year he was making the plays in the hole. He was making the plays up the middle, the spin throws, but he's not making the three hop ground ball to him. So I don't get it. I don't know what it is about Tim Anderson making routine plays that's so difficult, but it absolutely needs to improve.
absolutely, absolutely.
The
What are your other points here? I'm interested to see where
this
because I feel like with a lot of Sox fans and a lot of people in general that the biggest thing is going to be Tim Anderson's glove, and because that's been a problem since really he's come up in the bigs. And luckily last season his bat came along and that we were only really talking about his glove now. Um, but yeah, I'm interested to see. Sorry, I'm just
no,
yeah,
you're good. No,
jumping the gun here a little bit.
the second
Interested to see where you're going.
the second issue I'm I wouldn't necessarily say it's, well, yeah, we'll call it an issue, is the the question mark we have at second base. Like, if Nick Madrigal is going to come up and you're just going to leave him there and that's just how it's going to go, okay, fine. Like, just let him stay there and we'll figure it out. If he sucks and we'll just work on development. That's fine. But if you're not going to just commit to Nick Madrigal, are is that who Danny Mendick or Leori Garcia? Are we platooning Leori Garcia for the next 6 months?
Probably.
I like Leori Garcia. Don't get me wrong, and I know you got that signed bat, so I know you're a supporter. But I enjoy Leori Garcia, but he's not a second baseman in a playoff team. He's just not.
He's not an everyday play. He's not an everyday player. Period.
Period.
I love him. I love him as well. But he is a great utility guy. He comparing to the Cubs and talking about the Cubs again. I look at him as like our Zobrist. He could play virtually every position on the field. He could hit the ball decently. He's reliable. But I don't want to be trotting him out there at second base every day. And if we didn't trade for Mazzara, I didn't want to see Lurie in right field every day either. He's a guy that I want to see maybe every other day. Throw him in to give a guy a rest or give a guy a break or something. But I don't want to see him as an everyday player. And I have a feeling that's what we're going to be getting until we get Madrigal, which I hope is sooner rather than later.
We could quite possibly see a wild spring training where players that we don't expect to have good spring trainings have great spring trainings and end up making the team. But obviously these are just based off of the reality of the same thing happening last year happens this year, and we have a pretty typical roster with no surprises. So that's a question mark for me. And it's not one of those things where like, oh my God, if we have Leori Garcia at second base, like the season's over. It's just like, look, I would like to see some commitment, and I understand that you're going to rely on Luis Robert the entire year. Like Adam Engel, I don't know what the hell is going to happen with Adam Engel. I enjoy his glove. But, dude, you can't really hit the baseball, so I don't know what's going to happen to you. Let's just put it this way. I'm wishing you the best. I don't think there's going to be a spot for him.
No.
I kind of think he's – which is it sucks to say, but I think he's probably going to end up in a deal. I mean, who knows? But the third question mark for me is right field. And it's not lack of confidence in Nomar Mazara because his ceiling is high. I love the gamble of that trade. It's just the fact that we're so not used to seeing any production out of right field that I feel like it's going to be hard for Sox fans and myself to see somebody consistently trot out to right field.
Mm-hmm.
And if his numbers aren't there, we're going to have a lot of people upset. But I feel like that this might be the year where, just like the Madrigal situation, put Mazzara in right field, put Robert in center, put Eloy in left, and leave it. Don't touch it. Just let them play. If they suck, let them suck and work out of it. Because we have to start building some consistency with this team. And I'll get to another consistent issue that I would like to see fixed. But you have to just let them go. Whether you lose 5 in a row, like you got to just let them play and figure it out, because that's where these players are going to really learn how to work out of slumps. And I don't mean at the plate. Like, as a team, work out of slumps, which then now comes in Edwin Encarnacion. Jose Abreu is going to be a big piece, is why I'm so happy that he didn't talk to anybody else but the White Sox. Yasmani Grandal, who we haven't touched on, which was the biggest signing of the offseason. I just think that the White Sox this year should be a team that of course, without injury, just lets him go play and just see what happens. Because then you can gauge, hey, Nomar Mazara is not our guy. We need to make it. We need to make a change, or
Yeah.
Leary Garcia is not, his production's not there off the bench. We gotta figure something out. Or hey, maybe it was dumb for getting rid of Yomer Sanchez. He's tearing it up in San Francisco. We can learn from that. So I want to see this team just go play. Like the thing last year was let the kids play. Okay, well this year,
Yeah.
like legitimately let them play.
Hmm.
So what are your thoughts on the catching situation? Because I'm having a hard time now. When we drafted Zach Collins, I was really high on him. Um, Watching his highlights in Miami, I'm like, man, this dude can rake. And the word on the street was he's a hell of a catcher. He's got a high IQ and he's got a cannon. I'm like, okay, sweet. Like this is perfect. Well, when he came up in Texas last season and he hit that home run, I'm like, okay, this is awesome. Now I'm not exactly sure where he fits.
I honestly, so going a little backstory, I guess. What you're saying with earlier with let the kids play, let them feel their lumps out there. That's something that Ricky completely just didn't do last year with Collins. That's the reason why I still have faith in what he has to bring to the table. I don't necessarily see where his role is gonna be, at least this season with McCann being the backup. But last season he wasn't given a chance. Yeah, he wasn't given constant at bats. And that was really the biggest thing for me. The constant, the consistency that he was having playing. He would be on a game, he'd be off a game, he'd be on two games, and he'd be off a few. And you hear time and time again from players that baseball is more of a mental game than it is physical. You can't get mentally into the game if you're going to be like, okay, if I'm playing today, no, I'm not playing tomorrow. Um, Collins needs to hammer out what he's doing. They need to consistently play him, but where is that going to be this year? Who knows? With Encarnacion at DH and first base, and Abreu at first base and DH, and we got our catcher situation. It seems like pretty figured out, especially if McCann repeats or has anything close to what he had last season. We have our catcher situation figured out, but I've been saying this a lot. Also, I'm still high on Collins, and I have a feeling a lot of teams around the league are as well. I think that he would make a great piece come the trade deadline. A great guy to trade to trade to someone to bring in hopefully some pitching or any help that we need later in the season.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, and I'm kind of glad you said that because I know a couple weeks ago I had an exchange with a couple Sox fans on Twitter about, okay, so who would Zach Collins bring? Like in a return for Zach Collins, who do you get? And the one, I can't remember what exact team came up in that situation, but a lot of people are saying like, look, you're not really going to get much for him. I mean, yeah, he was a first round pick, but I don't see his return, and I mean, like you said, I think it's just because he didn't play. But the problem is you're not gonna sit Yasmani Grandal or
No.
James McCann to let Zach Collins play. I think Zach Collins, if he's gonna get any playing time, it's gonna be in the beginning of the year when things are kind of up in the air and we're trying to figure it out, or I don't want to jinx it, but at the end of the year when there's 5-6 games left and the Sox are eliminated from playoff contention and the veteran players are getting that time off. I'm just having a hard time figuring out where he fits. Do we run the three catcher thing? My issue with that is like, man, who's he going to catch? Dylan Cease? Dylan Cease he's going to need Yasmani Grandal. He's going to need
Oh
James
yeah.
McCann. So I don't know if you can pair a rookie pitcher with a rookie catcher. I don't think you can do that. And Dallas
I
Keuchel, the catcher's supposed to be the brain. He's supposed to be the, hey, Okay, we're doing this, this, and this today. Just go pitch. Just go throw the ball. I don't think Dallas is. Do you think he can? Does he have enough of? Does he have enough like IQ to be like, hey, Dallas Keuchel, this is what we're doing today. Like, I'm sorry, but I don't see his role. What
Yeah,
happens to him? Does he play in
it,
AAA? I have no idea. We have Yerman Mercedes. We have so many. We have so much catching depth that I have no idea where any of these players are going to end up. Is it a good problem to have? Yes, but what are we doing with it? So are we going to use this depth for trade value in case things are really we're in there toward the trade deadline and we need, let's say, another bullpen piece? Are we using these prospects for trade value? Because that's what I said. I said at the beginning of the offseason, my plan, if I was running the White Sox, is to sign free agents. So sign Keuchel, do exactly what they did. Sign Keuchel, sign Gonzalez, sign Encarnacion, do all that they had to do, and then take this, and this prospect and say, you're our core. So Madrigal, Robert, and Eloy. Okay, you're our core. Now the rest of you guys, hey, if it works out, it works out. But I need you to know that if you're producing and you have value, I'm sending you off for a relief pitcher because we got a shot at this thing. Which
yeah,
is exactly what the Cubs did. Exactly what the Cubs did.
yeah,
They got rid of Gleyber Torres, which was a
and then they brought in
desperation
Chapman
move.
there.
That was a complete desperation move, and it paid off. But to me, that's the way to go about it.
That's the biggest thing that a lot of people forget about, and that we have all these prospects, but we have to trade them while their stock is still relatively high. We can't. Yeah, in an ideal world, we wait to see how everyone pans out and then we trade, but that's not the reality here. Zach Collins, there's still a lot of potential with him. I think that right now, if not now, soon is the best time to trade him, along with guys like maybe Dunning and Blake Rutherford. Maybe he will have a bounce back first half of the season, and they could flip him for someone and throw a nice little pack, him and Collins and him and Collins and someone else, and for a nice little package. You said, who will we get for Collins? I don't think we're really getting anyone straight up for Collins. Because as of now, he's looking like he's going to be a backup catcher for probably any other team around the league, maybe a DH, and it's just like the first base market. It's not really that high in demand. I think they need to put together a nice little package and go for that relief pitching out there, because that's going to be one of the biggest things that we have to address.
The last thing I'll say on Collins is I think his stock was higher in AAA, and that happens a lot. I think you call somebody up and his stock goes down, and then you're like, well, shit, what are we going to do with this guy? Should we let him play out? Yeah, we'll figure it out. I want to transition into the overall arching question, and there's a lot of different opinions on this. I have a strong opinion. I don't know who, but I have a strong opinion. Or I'm sorry, I don't have an answer for it, but I have a strong opinion that Ricky Renteria is not the manager that's going to take this team to a World Series. What are your thoughts on that spot in the dugout? Is Renteria the guy, or do we treat him like the Cubs did and like, hey man, like you're a stepping stone. We appreciate you. They gave him a ring, even though he wasn't even with the team, and we replace him. What are your thoughts on Ricky Renteria?
I think the Sox are going to be loyal to him, and they're going to keep him around. As it goes personally, though, I think that this is going to be the defining year for him. He has to build upon what he did last year. I've always given Ricky the benefit of the doubt that he's been trotting out. He hasn't been trotting out a major league roster. That's the same could go for when he was with the Cubs as well. And of course, when Joe Madden comes knocking at your door, you're gonna accept that. But
Right.
I think that I still have some faith in Ricky. I honestly think that the three batter minimum rule is going to. Jokingly, I'm saying this. That's going to help him out, so he's not over managing the bullpen. But I also say that seriously, that it will help him not over manage the bullpen. Um, you know what? He has some talent to go to now. He's instead of saying going back to the bullpen. Instead of okay, well, I have to put in Fulmer now because Bummer had an inning or two yesterday, or he has some options now. He has Bummer, Shishak. He has well, I guess that might be it. Maybe a healthy Herrera. And I'm also a big fan of putting Kopech in the bullpen this year. To be honest with you, I think that would be a good way to bring him back after Tommy John and just kind of easing him back into major league play instead of putting him through AAA. Um, but I think that, and then also with the position players, he has a lot more to go to. We have the depth there. He doesn't have to decide. He could decide, okay, well, I'm going to put Abreu at first today, or I'm going to put Encarnacion. He's not going to have the problem of, okay, am I going to put Abreu? Is Matt Davidson going to be playing first base today? Who's going to be the DH? Is Yolmer going to be the DH? No, I think that this year it's a little. He has a better lineup and probably the best lineup he's had for any of his major league managerial roles.
Very true.
But that being said, this is going to be a big year for him, and I will not be. I will be one of the first to say that I would be jumping the Ricky ship after this season if he does not put up over 500. I mean, putting the bar pretty low for him, but he has the players now. He has the experience. Now it comes down to if he can manage and effectively manage a major league ball club.
It's a fair point. I guess I kind of jumped the gun on the judgment of Renteria being the fact that, like, look, man, yeah, you were dealing with Adam Engel in center field. Like, you really didn't have much of a choice. You had Ryan Cordell in right field. Like, I mean, it's tough to put it's tough to put a lineup together with guys who should really be in the minors in any other organization. But I think the final question that I have for you, and this isn't going to be like what do you think our record's going to be? This is a question that has been floating around White Sox Twitter for a while, and it has to do with the return of Kopech, Cease, and now you have Keuchel and Gonzalez. What do we do with Ronaldo Lopez?
Oh
Stumped
boy.
him. I got him. I got him.
You know, I liked what Lopez had in 2018. Last year he had sparks of what he had in 2018, but was wildly inconsistent. Um, I think that it's a good. I think it's a good thing that we have Kopech and Rodon coming back from Tommy John. We're not. They're going to be eased back into it. They're not going to be starting the season with the team to give guys like Lopez and even Gio Gonzalez kind of like a little taster and to see if they belong with this rotation. A lot of people see moving people to the bullpen as a demotion of some sort. I feel like it has that negative connotation of, oh, we're gonna move him to the bullpen because he doesn't last as a starter. Well, I still think that he could be a great addition in the bullpen, to be honest with you as well. I'm probably one of the few people with Covey last year and the year before, and probably every year he was with the team, that he would have made a great guy in the bullpen because Covey was always the guy that the first time around the order he pitched pretty well against guys, but then you faced him the second, third time, not the case. Lopez, I could see being a nice long reliever maybe coming in there if things don't work out in the starting rotation, but I still think that he has the shot in there. I mean, maybe go to a 6-man rotation. I don't see that happening, but you know what? See that, and like what you said earlier, it's a good problem to have of having a lot of depth at the position. And I'm not ready to jump ship on Lopez because he did pitch well in 2018, and I mean, we look at Giolito. He had terrible first season, and then last season he came back and had an amazing year. Who says that Lopez can't do the same thing?
So
I'm
that's a,
also,
that's a good point.
also this is. So I like to give a lot of hot takes every now and
Oh,
then,
here we go.
and
I'm clipping this one.
I think Kopech will make a lights out closer. Put Kopech in the closing role, and he will be lights out. He will be one of the most dominant closers in the league.
Dave, I'm gonna clip this. I think you're gonna get a lot of shit for saying that.
Oh, I will. And my acts are open, everyone. My
Oh
acts
man.
are open.
I I don't like his so stuff wise. I agree with you. But he's not a closer. He's not a closer. I would rather feel more comfortable putting Ronaldo Lopez in as a closer because he's a power pitcher. I mean, so is Kopech, but he's got more stuff. But I don't. I see what you're saying, but I don't. I don't think that ever could or will happen. I have one final question for you, and this will be it. If the White Sox
Okay.
announced tomorrow that after this season they're launching the Pinwheel Network, similar to the Marquee Network, what's your reaction? Are you paying for it?
Um, no, I'm not. I'm honestly not paying for it. I will spend my money going to the games. I will take the extra few minutes to find a stream. But I think, and I don't agree with Cubs fans on a lot of things, but I, Cubs fans should be outraged with it. It's it's awful. The Marquee Network it's awful. It ruins the tradition of what the game is, and it's just in my opinion, a big corporate buyout. What would I buy into their network? Most likely not. I'm not going to abandon the team. I'll find my other ways of watching it, whether it is going to the game or live streaming it. But I wouldn't buy into it. It's I don't know exactly. I can't put my finger on exactly why, but it's just I don't know. It's an absurd thing.
Well, good news is I don't see that happening anytime soon. Dave Paulina, thanks for joining me on the podcast, man, and hopefully this year is an exciting one for the Sox.
Yeah, thanks, Josh. Thanks for having me on.